investment, Mel grumbled. Lonnie Anderson and me, neighbors. Alice took the contract from his hand and tore it up. Mel, go make the chili. Yeah, Melsihl. Back to the grind. He walked into the kitchen. Alice stood at the counter, looking out at the parking lot. The sun was setting, painting the Arizona sky in purples and oranges. It was a beautiful, hard, crazy life. Order up, Mel shouted from the back. Alice smiled. She adjusted her apron, grabbed the coffee pot, and turned to the customers. Coming right up, she said. Alice. The Phoenix Chronicles. Book I. The Cosmic and the Competitive. Chapter 7. Close Encounters of the Greasy Kind. The desert sky outside Phoenix was a vast, obsidian dome, pierced by a million indifferent stars. Alice Hyatt stood by her car on a lonely stretch of highway. The hood popped, steam hissing into the cool night air like a dying dragon. It was the sort of predicament that had defined her life since leaving New Jersey. Stalled engines and long waits in the middle of nowhere. Just perfect, she muttered, kicking the tire. Tommy's going to starve, and I'm going to be eaten by a coyote. Then, the sky changed. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter. It was a silent, hovering disk of luminescent violet light that descended from the heavens, hanging motionless above the cactus scrub for a breathless 10 seconds before shooting upward at an impossible speed. Alice stood frozen, her mouth slightly open. She blinked. The next morning at Mel's diner, the incident was the only thing on her mind. The diner smelled of bacon grease and skepticism. A UFO? Mel Sharples barked, slapping a raw hamburger patty onto the grill with unnecessary violence. Alice, you've been inhaling too much hairspray. There are no such things as flying saucers. I saw what I saw, Mel, Alice insisted, pouring coffee for a truck driver who looked equally dubious. It was purple. It hovered. It zipped. Maybe it was a weather balloon, Vera suggested helpfully, clutching her tray. Or a giant purple frisbee thrown by a very strong giant. It was an unidentified flying object, Alice maintained. But word traveled fast in Phoenix. By noon, the diner wasn't filled with the usual crowd of truckers and locals. It was packed with enthusiasts. People wearing tinfoil hats, people clutching Geiger counters, and people who just wanted to see the waitress who had made contact. Mel watched the register ring up sale after sale. A gleam entered his eye. The same dangerous gleam that had appeared during the Worm Ranch fiasco. You know, Mel announced, smoothing his apron. I've always been a believer. I feel a cosmic connection. Yesterday you said I was hallucinating, Alice reminded him. That was before I realized the aliens have disposable income, Mel whispered. He grabbed a piece of cardboard and a marker. 10 minutes later, a new sign hung in the window. Home of the Galactic Burger, out of this world flavor. Mel, you can't be serious, Alice groaned as she watched him try to sell a Martian shake, which was just vanilla with green food coloring, to a tourist. Alice, we're putting the saucer in flying saucer, Mel grinned. Now go out there and tell them about the purple lights. And maybe mention the chili is radioactive. In a good way. The frenzy lasted a week. The diner became a circus. Vera, caught up in the excitement, began greeting customers with nanu nanu. Jolene tried to sell authentic moon rocks that looked suspiciously like gravel from the parking lot. It ended as quickly as it began when the Air Force released a statement about experimental flares. The crowds vanished. The tinfoil hats disappeared. Mel was left with 5 gallons of green milk. Well, Mel sighed, scraping the galactic sign off the window. Back to Earth. I'm glad, Alice said, watching the sunset. I prefer my aliens on the movie screen. And my chili, without the radioactive marketing. Chapter 8. The virtuoso of the storeroom. With the extraterrestrial excitement fading, a new sound began to fill the lull between the lunch and dinner rushes. It was a deep, mournful resonance, vibrating through the floorboards of the diner. Is the refrigerator dying again? Mel asked, cocking his head. It sounds like a cow in distress. It's coming from the storeroom, Alice noted. They opened the door to find Vera sitting on a crate of canned peaches, a cello tucked between her knees, her bow moving across the strings with surprising grace. Vera? Alice gasped. Vera looked up, her face flushed. Oh, I didn't hear you. I was practicing my vibrato. I didn't know you played the cello, Jolene said, leaning against the doorframe. I thought your only musical talent was playing the spoons on your knees. I used to play in high school, Vera explained shyly. I joined a string quartet. We're called the Four Strings of Phoenix. We have a recital coming up. Mel stared at the cello. You mean to tell me you can play that big fiddle, but you can't remember to put the toast down? It's different, Mel, Vera said. Music is mathematical, emotional. It's loud, Mel grumbled. Keep it down. You're gonna curdle the mayonnaise. But Vera's talent was undeniable. As the days went on, she practiced more. The Four Strings. A group of eccentric locals, including a retired librarian and a nervous dentist, began rehearsing in the diner after hours. Mel, ever the opportunist, saw an angle. Culture, Mel declared one morning. That's what this joint needs. Class, we'll have a dinner theater. Chili and cello. Mel, they're a string quartet, not a jukebox, Alice warned. You can't just trot them out to play while people are eating ribs. Why not? Mel argued. It soothes the savage beast. And maybe it'll distract them from the fact that we're out of ketchup. The night of the concert was a disaster of Mel's making. He tried to force the quartet to play upbeat polka music instead of Mozart. Vera, pushed to her limit, stood up, her bow trembling. No, Mel, she shouted, shocking everyone. Silence descended on the diner. Mel looked at Vera, then at the stunned customers. Okay, Mel backed down, raising his hands. Bajitis. Just. Try to make it zippy. Vera sat back down. She closed her eyes and played. For a few minutes, the smell of grease faded, replaced by the rich, wooden warmth of the music. Even Mel stopped wiping the counter to listen. She's pretty good, Mel whispered to Alice. She's wonderful. Alice smiled. She's a virtuoso. Yeah, Mel grunted. But she still owes me for the crate of peaches she's sitting on. Chapter 9. The Triple Threat. The harmony of the cello didn't last long. It was replaced by the discordant sound of competition. Have you guys heard? Jolene burst into the diner, waving a newspaper. There's a game show coming to town. Name that tune, Arizona edition, and they're looking for contestants. A game show? Alice asked, looking up from her order pad. You mean on TV? Big prizes, Jolene squealed. Cash, cars, a year's supply of floor wax. I'm in, Vera said instantly. I know every commercial jingle from 1960 to 1980. I'm in too, Alice said, feeling a spark of competitiveness. I'm a singer. I know music. And I, Jolene added, know country. If they play anything with a banjo, I'm taking the money home. The dynamic in the diner shifted immediately. The sisterhood of the waitresses dissolved into a cold war of musical trivia. Alice would be wiping a table, humming a tune, and Jolene would jump out from behind the counter. That's Moon River. Henry Mancini. 1961. I wasn't quizzing you, Jolene, Alice sighed. I was just humming. Constant vigilance. Jolene narrowed her eyes. It's a dog-eat-dog world, Alice. Vera took a different approach. She began memorizing encyclopedias of music history, muttering facts under her breath while serving customers. Beethoven, Def, 1827. Tuna melt for table 4. Mel, naturally, tried to manage them. You couldn't name a tune if it came with a name tag, Alice scoffed. The audition was brutal, but all three women made the cut. They were scheduled to appear on the same episode. The Battle of the Diner was set. On the day of the taping, the studio lights were blinding. The host, a man with teeth so white they looked radioactive, introduced them. From Mel's Diner, we have the lovely Alice, the vivacious Jolene, and the vibrating Vera. The game was intense. Alice dominated the Broadway category. Jolene swept the country western round. Vera, in a fugue state of panic, correctly identified